Morning, everybody. So this morning I'm wearing green, and the reason I'm wearing green is because I'm going to be talking about improving. I am not going out there. It is windy, it's rainy, and I'm not going to suffer quite that much for my art. So this morning I'm wearing green because I'm going to be talking about improving, and it's a story about how a manager decided to let go a bit, and really odd word, trust a little bit more, and the impact that it had. But before we do, let's just talk about my chair keeps dropping. Let's talk about the 3 green behaviors. So the 3 green behaviors are thinking, communicating, and improving. Those are the things that, if you have them in your diary in the right proportion, will take you, your people, and your organization upwards, make you better. That's the green stuff. Then there's the amber stuff, monitoring and directing, just 2 of those. If you have those in your diary, then it will manage risk and stop things from going backwards. You've got the red stuff and the brown stuff, and if you have too much of that in your diary, then you're going to go backwards, both you, your organization, and your people. Not good, that stuff. And then you've got the blue stuff, which is living, and that is about recharge. That's looking after your physical, mental, and spiritual capacity. So, did a diary detox with a sales director about 2 years ago, I think it was. And it came up yesterday in a conversation that I was having with somebody. That's why it brought it to my mind. And if I've told this story before, I do apologise, but I think it's a really good one to hear. And once they'd done their diary detox, they looked in their diary and they realised that a lot of their time was spent on red stuff. They were doing a lot of stuff themselves instead of delegating things. And one particular frustration that they had was that the team meetings that they were running for their people weren't really very effective. They weren't going very well. And they said that people were kind of switching off. As soon as I came to them to give their update, they'd kind of say that phrase that everybody says, which is, "Oh, I'm sorry, it broke out just for a second. Sorry, can you just repeat the question?" Knowing full well they weren't paying any attention whatsoever, because they basically lost them. They weren't in the room. And what was interesting is that meeting was showing up as red in their diary. They were doing it. They were taking the meeting themselves. And what was interesting is I said, well, is there a way you could turn that meeting into a different colour? And the ideal colour that you really want is green, okay? And that's either way you're thinking about stuff, you're communicating, sharing new ideas that you've had with other people, or you're improving. And improving can be improving other people. And so the idea that they came up with was that they were going to get their people to run the meeting for them. And they'd do it on a rotated basis. So each week, a different person would take on the running of the meeting. And the reason this was improving is because they'd never done it before and they didn't know how to do it. And so this was an opportunity to teach them, get them to think about how they would run this meeting in a different way and run it, get that experience, improve them. And that's what they did. And they were a bit apprehensive, thinking, well, yeah, but what if? And it was like, well, let's see. I mean, this will be learning. This is you learning as much as anything. So technically this turned it into green for them as well, because they were going to be learning something new. And that's what they did. So the next week, they had one of their people run the meeting for them. And what was really nice is that it was one of the better meetings they'd ever had. Because the person that was in the meeting, who was originally an attendee at the meeting, who then got to run the meeting, ran it in a slightly different way. They asked slightly different questions. They got slightly different things done. And what was interesting is because everybody else who was going to be running it in a future week was really focused, thinking, I want to find out how this person does this because I'm going to have to do this. Everybody switched on. Everybody was in the room. But here's the brilliant thing, is that at that moment, that manager realised that they didn't ever have to run that meeting again. This was an opportunity for them to develop their people and have their people run this meeting the way they wanted to. All they really wanted to get out of it was a bit of amber behaviour. They wanted to understand the status of how things were going. But actually what they got was far more, because not only did they get to understand the status, that the conversation about how they could improve the business in the future came forward, because the other guys were interested in that. They wanted to say, how are we going to make this better? So it actually became a green meeting, and it was nothing to do with them, other than the fact that they handed it away to somebody else. So there's a lesson for all of us. We're not talking about hands-off abdication, let's not worry about it and hope for the best. We're talking about if you give your people an objective, which is to run a meeting and get more out of it, it's amazing what they will come up with. So green behavior works because improving works. That's all I wanted to share for today. If you have any comments, tell us below. And if you want to find out how you can do more of this yourself, give me a shout. Have a great day. Have a great week.